Hello friends, I am Guna Mathivanan, Current Affairs faculty at Officers IAS Academy. As you know, I am coming up with this Current Affairs headless video series. So far we have covered 8 topics. Today we will discuss about Israel-Palestine conflict. Israel-Palestine conflict. Okay. Friends, the Israel which you see today in the map, okay, that region was under the control of Jewish kings some 3000-4000 years ago. If you go back to 3000-4000 years, right, that region was actually ruled by Jewish kings. That region was even more bigger. The Israel which was existing before 4000 years, that Israel was bigger than what we see today in the map. So that area was actually ruled by Jewish kings, okay, Jewish kings. After some 2000 years, so after some 2000 years, right, that is 2000 years from now backwards, okay, or from here also you can bring down to 2000 years. The Israel area was coming under Roman Empire. The Israel area, the Israel region was coming under Roman Empire. So between these, there was crucifixion of Jesus. So because of this crucifixion of Jesus, there was so much of hatred created against Jews. There was rise of Christianity, right? There was religious animosity increasing between Jews and Christians. So this Roman Empire, during their regime, they killed so many Jews. They killed the Jews. They destroyed the temples of the Jews. They forced the Jews to migrate from that Israel region. There's a popular belief among the Jews that Israel region is a gift given by the God to the Jews. That Israel region, that territory, is a gift given by the God to Jews. But what Romans did, they expelled the Jews from the Israel itself. No Jew was allowed to stay inside Israel. Many Jews were killed. Many Jews were expelled. They were forced to migrate, and Jews' temples were destroyed. And many Jews, they went and settled in different parts of the world. Some Jews, they also came to India. They settled in the Maharashtra region. They settled in the northeastern region and all. But many Jews, they chose Europe, different parts of Europe. They were going and they were settling. But inside Europe also, there was that, because of that hatredness, there was a kind of racism was practiced against Jews, which is called as anti-Semitism. Okay, simply some hatredness was there against Jews, and Jews were not accepted by the European society members. The Jews were marginalized, and the Jews, right, they were left with no big job option, right, because they were not supported by the mainstream society. So the Jews, they started becoming traders and moneylenders, because Christians those days, they were not practicing moneylending activity or trade. So Jews, they became moneylenders, right. But however, the hatredness among the hatredness on the Jews was actually increasing day by day. Hitler, what he did? He chose this anti-Semitism, this hatredness, this racism against the Jews as his propaganda tool, and he even won the elections in the Germany. And Hitler, he even killed almost 60 lakhs Jews. Almost 60 lakhs Jews were killed by Hitler. So the Jews in any part of the world, they were subjected to various tortures, right? So that time, ideology was emerging among the Jews, that is Zionism. That is Zionism. That is nothing but Jewish nationalism. So Jews, they felt that everywhere we are facing so much of torture, so we need a place to settle. We need a place to settle peacefully, live peacefully. So which place they will choose? It is very natural that they will choose Israel, right? Because according to Jews, Israel is the land which was gifted by the God. So the Jews all over the world, among them there was a rise in nationalism among the Jews, and they all wanted to settle back in Israel. But meanwhile what happened? The Israel region, right, that was occupied by the Arab speaking Muslims. That region was occupied by the Arab speaking Muslims. That region came under the control of Ottoman Empire. That region came under the control, that is the Israel region, it came under the control of Ottoman Empire, and many Arab Muslims, they settled in that Israel region. And they called that territory where they got settled as Palestine. They called that territory as Palestine. They were not calling it as Israel. The Israel region was occupied by the Arab Muslims over a period of time. During Ottoman Empire, the entire region came under the control of the Ottoman Turks. So that region where the Arab Muslims got settled, they were not calling it as Israel, rather they changed the name and they called the settlement as Palestine. Right? So meanwhile, I said there was a rise in the nationalistic ideology among the Jews. The Jews, they wanted to settle back in Israel. So the Jews, they approached UK. They approached the British. You please come and help us. You please facilitate the settlement in Israel. The British also, they gave a word to the Jews that, okay, don't worry, I will help you. So after the First World War, we all know in the First World War, the Ottoman Empire was, destroyed. So the Israel or the Palestine, whatever, the Palestine or the Israel region, which was under the control of Ottoman Empire, now after the First World War, that region, it came under the control of Britain. So Britain, what they did, they asked in the 1920s, they asked the Jews, you slowly go and settle, I am there, I will take care, you go and settle. So Jews all over the world, day by day, they were coming and they were settling in that region. Today it is called as Palestine, earlier it was called as Israel. In 1920s, the Jews, they were coming to the Palestinian region or the Israel region. Okay, they were coming and they were settling slowly. And day by day, the population of Jews were increasing, and the Palestinians, the Arab Muslims, they got shocked. They got threatened. Because for hundreds of years, it is the Palestinians who got settled and they made that place as home. Okay, 3,000, 4,000 years ago, the situation may be different. But what is the situation today? For the 200, 300 years, that region was under the influence of Palestinians, that is the Arab Muslims. So now Jews, they are coming and they are settling. So this became a threat for the Palestinians. So the Palestinians and the other Arab states in that region, they revolted against the British. In 1920, there was a revolt. There was a revolt against the British. One side Arab states, another side British. And British, they crushed the revolt. Then Jews sensed that the Jews, what they did? They sensed, okay, there is so much of enmity for Jews even today. So they started developing their military unit. Another side, the Palestinians, they also felt threatened. Revolt was also crushed, right? So they also started developing their military unit. So the hostility between the Jews, that is, Jews as well as the other Arab states were actually increasing, right? However, in 1920, UK, it facilitated the settlement of more number of Jews in that Israel region. But the enmity between the Jews and the Palestinians was increasing day by day. In 1947, that resulted in a huge civil war between the Jews as well as the Palestinians. The civil war was so violent. So in 1947 November, UN intervened and UN gave a solution. UN said, Israel, Palestine, mean Jews and the Palestinians, you don't fight. Jews, we are able to understand your feelings. Palestinians, I am able to understand your feelings as well. Okay, let us go for a two-state solution. Let us divide the territory for Jews. As well as the Palestinians. So according to the UN formula, almost 50+% of area, that area will go to Jews, and some 40+% area will go to Palestinians. Two cities, one is Jerusalem, another one is Bethlehem. These two cities will be having a special international status. It will not be a part of Jewish territory or Palestinian territory. It will be simply called as international special status will be given, some international city status will be given. It will not be under the control of Jews or Palestinians. So the place where Jews are living, it can be called as Israel, and the place where Palestinians are living, which can be called as Palestine. A two-state idea was proposed by UN, but however, the Jews, they rejected this idea. They rejected this idea, and you know what Jews did? Jews in 1948, remember in 1947 November, UN was giving this idea, the solution, but in 1948 Jews, they declared independence. They declared independence. They said, we are independent. This place is called as Israel. Israel is a separate country, and they declared independence. Right? Because of this act in 1948, what was going on as a civil war became a full-fledged war between two different countries. Right? So one side now Israel, the Jews occupied area, Jews, they called it as Israel, they declared independence. So that became a war between Israel in one side and the Palestinians occupied territory. Okay, the entire Israel was under the control of Palestinians, but however, the Jews, they slowly they occupied a majority area, and in that so-called Israel region, majority area is under the influence of Jews. They are calling it as Israel, and some smaller area, it is under the influence of Palestinians. It is under the influence of Palestinians, and that region is called as Palestine. So there was a war. So one side Israel, another side Palestine, and plus other Arab states, many states, because they saw Israel as a threat in that area. So many states, they want to crush Israel, but the result, Israel won. And you know what Israel did? Israel actually, they wanted Jerusalem. This Jerusalem is the heart of the issue, because this Jerusalem is a city which is very, very important for Muslims, which is very, very important for Jews, which is very, very important for Christians as well. There is so much of religious significance in Jerusalem. This Jerusalem city was actually under the control of Palestinians. But in this 1948 war, Israel, right, the Jerusalem city was under the influence of Palestinians, but in this 1948 war, Israel, they captured half of Jerusalem, that is the western part of Jerusalem. The western part of Jerusalem was captured by Israel. In this war, they defeated the Arabs, they defeated the Palestinians, and some western part of Jerusalem city was captured by the Israel, the Jews. Then in 1967, remember this Jerusalem, this entire Jerusalem is important for Muslims as well. In 1967, again there was a war. Again one side Israel, another side if you see, we have Palestine, we have this Egypt, we have this Syria, we have this Jordan, and many other countries. These are the main primary countries, and many other countries. They waged war, they waged a mega war against Israel. And you know what? In 6 days, Israel, it defeated this entire team, which is famously called as 6 days war. So after, you know what Israel did? From Egypt, it captured Sinai Peninsula. From Syria, it captured Golan Heights. From Jordan, it captured some parts of West Bank. West Bank means the territory is located in the western bank of Jordan River. That's all. So one small country, Israel, they were able to defeat so many, Arab states. Palestine, Egypt, Syria, Jordan, many other states were defeated. And Israel was becoming all powerful. And in this 1967 war, the entire Jerusalem was captured by Israel. the entire Jerusalem was captured by Israel. Palestinians felt, very upset, because for Palestinians, for the Arabs, Jerusalem is very, very significant, religiously very significant. But Israel, they captured the entire Jerusalem. From then, you will always see a war, a civil war, at least some minor war, which is going between Israel and Palestine, right? For all practical purpose today, you see this red color area is called as Israel, and here we have something called as West Bank, here we have something called as Gaza. This West Bank and Gaza, it is called as Palestine. Today, for practical purposes, right, West Bank and Gaza, these two put together is called as Palestine, and the remaining area is called as Israel. It's called as Israel, right? I will show one image. Right, see, in 1946, it was Palestine which was controlling the majority of this area. These white patches were the area which was settled by Jews. These white patches were under the control of Jews. Then see, slowly, then UN came with a partition plan, and it said almost 50+% will be going for Jews, and the remaining area will be for Palestinians, and it was rejected. And Israel, what they did? Leaving this West Bank and Gaza, leaving these two places, they said all this area is Israel, and they declared independence. And Israel has the ambition to control these areas also, but however, in 1948, I am saying, when Israel was declaring independence, they said all these regions called as Israel. Again, there was war, what happened? So today, what is the situation? This map talks about 2014. Today, what is the situation? Though I said for all practical purpose, this area and this area is called as Palestine, but however Israel, it is asking Jews to go and slowly settle in this West Bank region. Israel says, Jews, you go inside West Bank, you go and settle, I will give you protection. So many Jews, they are slowly they are encroaching, they are eating the borders of West Bank. So today you see, how this West Bank looks, because all these white areas are occupied by Jews. All these white areas are occupied by Jews. So even West Bank is not a clear-cut territory. Are you clear? But however, for all practical purpose, this Gaza strip and this area, this West Bank is called as Palestine. Both in Gaza as well as in West Bank, we have some self-rule. Some self-rule is going on. This Gaza strip is completely, one side it is bordered by Egypt, another side completely enclosed by Israel, another side Mediterranean Sea. This Gaza strip, this area is called as an open air prison, because this Gaza region will not get any support from Israel or Egypt, right? So it is something like an open air prison. In Gaza strip also there is a self-rule, in West Bank also there is a self-rule. Are you clear? So, this is the current status. So, after the 1967 war, as I said, the Israel was even more becoming bigger and more powerful in that area. In 1990, and often there will be civil war between these two regions. In 1990, the US, it intervened and it brokered an agreement called as Oslo Accord. So, according to this Oslo Accord, Israel and Palestine, through negotiations, they will settle their territory disputes. That was the Oslo Accord. That is the essence of Oslo Accord. But however, Israel or Palestine, they are not giving much respect to Oslo Accord. If you take the stand of UN, what UN says? UN says the occupation made by Israel, post-wars, the occupation made by Israel, right, UN is not recognizing. UN calls it as hostile occupation. It is not recognizing the Israel's occupation on the West Bank region. Slowly, West Bank is being encroached, right, by Jews. So UN is not recognizing it. Okay, what is the stand of India? So India stands with the two-state solution. India stands with the two-state solution. India wants Israel as well as Palestine. Right? There should be peaceful negotiations. This is the stand of India. Right? So now why it was in news? So recently the Israel head, right, the Prime Minister, what he said? So he is saying that, it is Benjamin right? He is saying that he will effectively annex the parts of the remaining West Bank also. So, Israel is not ready for a kind of settlement and all. Israel effectively they want to completely take control of the West Bank area, and eventually they will easily crush Gaza Strip area as well. And he openly says that he will plan to effectively annex the parts of the West Bank region. Right? So, the Israel region, the Jews in that region, right, or the Israel as a country, they are saying that they will take control of the West Bank region. And even Trump during his election campaign also, he projected this point. His election promise is one of his election promise. He said that yes, he will effectively help Israel to get hold of this West Bank region. Right? So, this is the issue. Briefly I have said, don't think that I have covered the entire Israel-Palestine conflict issue. Now, after this, listening to the story, now if you take any news article, you will be in a position to appreciate what they are writing. Okay. So, everything whatever I have discussed, I have briefly given you. You can go through, you will understand. Very easy only. Whatever we have discussed is not so, it is not today's current affairs, right? Kind of world history, but still it has so much of current relevance. To understand the international politics, we should know some basic idea about these background, right? Just go through, you will understand. I have asked a very simple question. UPSC asks very simple question only, right? We all think that IAS exam, it will be very, very difficult. UPSC will be asking complicated question. No, all are myth. That too, with respect to current affairs, they will ask very simple questions. What we need to know is we should have idea about many topics. We should have a broad coverage. You have to cover many areas, as many areas as possible. A broader coverage. A question is asked. If you are having some idea about the question asked, you can choose the right answer. You can go for a calculative guess and you can clear, easily you can control current affairs. If you take polity, if you take history, right, UPSC goes so deep into it. They are expecting you to be very strong in those areas. In current affairs, someone who follows the current affairs, that person regularly, that person can manage. Right? At the end of the year, every year, you are required to have some 750 topics. Along with the economic survey and budget, you have to keep it in mind. You have to, revise. You should have a control of these many topics. 200 topics I am covering through this video series, right? You yourself, you are also preparing. You have your own strategy to cover the current affairs. So, make use of these 200 topics. You also prepare on your own. Keep revising. You will effectively, clear the upcoming prelims exam. Okay. I hope you liked the topic, right? So, as I said that I am coming up with a current affairs course. You can go through the highlights of this course which I have given here. I will also give a video link in the description where I have explained about the course, right? You can watch if you are interested. So, I hope you liked today's lecture. So, tomorrow I will come up with one more interesting topic and I will see you there. Thank you.